Are you a deviant? You know, like those of us who binge watch serial killer programs, laugh at the stupid shit people do, and revel in anything adult? Well, you found your people. Join us as we crack open the door to the padded cell and release the insanely stupid, the weirdly wonderful, and those who choose to live outside societal norms. We'll delve into the strange, the macabre, the sexy, and the outrageous. So if you're a deviant, then you have your place with us in the padded cell. Hello and welcome to episode 25. I feel like saying like quarter of a century, but it's not years.
Quarter of a century?
Well, it's like quarter of 100, isn't it? Quarter of a century? Yeah. Okay, I know where I'm not. It's just exciting, all right. Fucking hell, pissing on me chips already, Nance.
Don't bully me.
I know, yeah.
I'll come.
So, we can't quite see your T-shirt. You need to move your laptop. And your microphone. Or just move yourself.
Which way am I going this
It says, don't bully me, I'll come.
True.
Facts.
They'll try and make me come while we sit here.
See, my T-shirt's just not as exciting as yours. Mine looks like a Guns N' Roses, but it's not.
What is it?
It's sabres and forces, like the true Star Wars fan I am. There you go. I like yours better. But don't bully me. That's all I'll say. You wouldn't fucking do. So, I just want to say a very quick hello just before we move on quickly to our episode. We've got some new Patreons. Ginger Knot, Callista, Tanya, Lee, Leigh, not Lee, Hayley, and Dylan.
Woo!
Not you.
No, not him. He's not putting his hand in his pocket, cheeky bastard.
He
doesn't need to because he gets a front row seat. So. And Hells, so our new Patreons so far.
Hello to everyone.
We've also got, you know what, Christy on there. And she's dead funny. Always sending me little messages and stuff. And then there's another girl called Tash. And she was saying she wasn't expecting something in one of the recent episodes. I can't find it now. But it's where I say sweat and minge cake, right? And she said, I was just, casually listening along.
I mean, when are you going to expect that phrase?
Sweat and minge cake. Well, there's a lot of things you say on here that you wouldn't expect in the same sentence, really.
True.
But she said, I'm just listening. She said, and then Vicky says, they call it private, I call it minge. And she went, where the heap? Minge is just a standard word. Do you know what? Right, Jimmy had this thought. We have lots of different words in the UK for the female genitalia. I tend to call it fandango when I'm being more polite. That comes from me being a midwife. Fandango. It was just like a nice little way of saying fanny.
Yeah.
Because, I don't know, the real words are just not interesting enough. And we say gash, minge. I'm really sorry if this offends you, but you shouldn't be listening to this podcast anyway.
I hate the word minge, though.
It is a
There's
little
just something about it.
It is a little bit nasty. But it's no worse than cunt. Is it? Really? So, right, I want to know your words around the world for the female genitalia, because we've already had the gooch one. That was everybody all around the world was giving me the names for the gooch. The barse was my favourite one, I think. The barse, it's not the balls, it's not the arse. So send in your names for the
I call
pussy,
mine vagine.
Your vagine.
Vagine.
I think I just call it me fanny.
Yeah.
Or me fandango, I think. I just use lots of different words, I don't know really. So yeah, send them in. So, somebody else has wrote in, I've got two people, and said, you were referring to a man with a flaccid penis on an old episode, and you said it was like a walnut whip.
Yeah.
I don't know what a walnut whip is. So this morning, what was I doing, Nance? I was going around the shop last night trying to find a walnut whip. Could the fuck find a walnut whip? I was going to treat all of us to a walnut whip.
I mean, I do like a walnut whip, but that picture.
Yeah, right. So if Dylan can just flash up the picture of a walnut whip. So there you go. So we're not saying that penises have got a walnut on the end of them, but you can see
crusty.
what we mean. It's like got the gathers.
Yeah, because it goes, doesn't it?
Yeah. So if I approach somebody with a cattle prod and they've got a semi on and I threaten them with it, it goes like that. It just retracts in.
Dylan's is doing that right now.
Yeah, totally. For those who haven't seen these before, they're delicious. It's chocolate with like this sort of vanilla fondant thing on the inside and a walnut on top. Now, in our club, we have a chocolate bowl, don't we, where people can buy some chocolate. And one day, Jim went to the local was it Home and Bargain or something like that, and he picked up a pack of 3 walnut whips. And in fact, he bought more than that, put them in the bowl. And somebody said, I've got a complaint. And I went, what? And they went, there isn't a walnut on my walnut whip. And I was like, that game's not my fault. If you looked in the packet, it dropped off, all that. And then they looked at it, and it was a cheap version of a walnut whip. It wasn't a proper walnut whip. I was just called a whip.
Just a knockoff whip.
It was a knockoff whip.
You know.
So it was like, shit, okay, I've bought these
That's why Jimmy
ones.
doesn't buy the chocolates anymore.
Yeah,
The worst type of whip in the club.
Yeah, definitely. So before I move on to my little segment, I've been listening to this podcast, and it's called We Can Be Weirdos. Have you heard of this, Dylan?
No, I have
It's quite
not.
a well-known one. It's by a guy called Dan Schreiber. You might have heard of him.
Possibly.
And I think he's from Australia originally, lives in the UK. And he does other podcasts. And this is by a company. It's not just him doing a podcast,
Yeah.
you know. I think he's been brought on to do this podcast. So he doesn't really need the exposure, to be honest. He's got bloody millions of people watching him. But if you're a little bit weird and freaky like us, We Can Be Weirdos is really good. They're about an hour to hour and a half, some of the episodes. So it is a little bit of an investment of time, but it's worth it. The format's lovely, the way he does it. And he brings people in every time who are dead interesting. So he might get the odd famous person, but he only gets them in if they've got like a really unusual, amazing life.
Yeah.
But some of the people he's brought in this paleontologist. I think she was Swedish and better English than me. And she was just kooky as fuck. And you know when somebody is like a mad professor in the real sense, and they're just a little bit nuts, and they're dead passionate, and they can talk all day about it, but they've got amazing stories. Well, this woman had me completely engaged for an hour and a half, and he's good as well. He's really good at, you know, getting answers out of people and getting the best out of them. So this one's a little ditty that he just threw in. I'm like, fuck off, that's not real. Anyway, it is. He was talking a little bit about conspiracy theories. He doesn't do it very often because I think it's all been done to death.
Yeah.
But somebody brought something up and he went, did you know this conspiracy theory? Anyway, have you heard of the Spear of Destiny?
Nope.
Dylan?
No.
Oh, fuck off. Neither of you heard the Spear of Destiny?
No.
Okay. Have you heard of, what's the other one? The cup. Fucking hell, it's me now. I don't know what I'm talking about.
Have you heard of that cup?
The chalice. The chalice.
The Holy Grail.
Thank you. In my head, I was going, fucking chalice of this, chalice of that.
I was at Hogwarts.
Oh my God. The Holy Grail. So it's supposed to be the cup at the Last Supper. Well, the Spear of Destiny is supposed to have pierced
yes.
Jesus,
Yeah.
right? And it's legend has it that the Spear of Destiny holds the power to control the earth and everybody on it. And people have been searching for the Spear of Destiny for 2 reasons. So you've got the Templar Knights, who Jimmy is absolutely obsessed with. There's nothing he doesn't know about the Templar Knights. They have been looking for the Holy Grail and the Spear of Destiny to try and protect humanity, take them, bury them away so nobody can find them, basically. And then there's others who've been looking for these things for, you know, monetary reasons or whatever. But there's they reckon that the Spear of Destiny has actually been found and used by, you know, dictators like Hitler and maybe Genghis Khan. Mm-hmm. But this is obviously, it's all conspiracy. It's not fact, this. But the conspiracy theorists reckon that one of these people, maybe Hitler, who fucking knows, has said, no, this is too big for me. I can't cope with this. It's, you know, I mean, I want power. Like, I don't want to kill the earth off.
I can't see Hitler saying that.
Apollo 13, right, they reckon, these conspiracy theorists took the Spear of Destiny, and that pole that has got the American flag on the moon is on with the Spear of Destiny. And you know, you listen to something and I'm like, I've heard some fucking mad things in my time, but the Spear of Destiny on the moon with the flag on it, no.
That's just someone high as fuck.
Yeah. Has
Hey,
made
and I'll
this
tell you
shit
what.
up, haven't they? Eh?
That's where it is, it's on the moon.
Yeah. It's just, I was just like, where did they
But
get
then they'll
this
also
stuff
say
from?
we didn't land on the moon.
Yeah, I think we did land on the moon, but I can see where the conspiracy theorists are coming from with that. But the Spear of Destiny, fuck off. Honest to God. So in the last episode, we said on this day, this new thing we're going to do. This episode is going out on the 7th of March. So I looked online looking for something interesting for the 7th of March. Not a lot, to be honest with you. I was like, okay, this segment's going to fail. But then I looked at the 8th of March. It just happened to be, obviously, it's the next date along. And it's International Women's Day. I was like, okay, I'm not a mad feminist, really, to be honest. I'm more of a man's woman. What, are you a woman's woman or a man's woman?
Bit of both.
I'm more the boys. So if I go out, I get on better with the men. I'm always drinking pints with the men and all that.
I find it easier to chat some stuff to men, but...
Yeah, male humour and all that. Girls, either they're frightened of me, threatened by me, think I'm a cunt, all that, you know, talk about me behind my back. Guys are just dead straight like me.
Yeah.
You know what I'm like? Straight as a die. I don't pull any punches. Guys the same. Women, too complicated, man. Anyway, so...
I have a small number of women that I get on with.
Me too. I've got like a circle of trust, if you like. And all of you are like me, straight down the line. Spade to spade and all that. Anyway, so International Women's Day, I'm like, don't really want to talk too much about that. I'm not that much of a feminist. However, I thought I might look for somebody who is maybe inspirational. Mm-hmm. So I'm looking down the birthdays. What have I been talking about recently on an episode? I went over to St. Thomas.
Yeah.
And I went to the Pirate Museum, didn't I? And I said, you know what? I might do an episode about female pirates one day. Nice. So I'm looking down this thing, 8th of March. So I'm then thinking, this is nuts. So Bonny, who is one of the most known female pirates, was born on the 8th of March. I'm looking for information. I've got in the back of my mind that I want to do a pirate episode at some point. And Bonny, one of the most famous fucking female pirates, has got her birthday on the 8th of March. I'm like, okay, so it's a sign. All right, Anne, I'm doing it. All right. So we're going to talk about Bonny, and she's dead interesting.
It's also my sister's birthday that day.
Is it? Yeah. 8th of March. So I'm going to talk about Bonny, but also there's a lady called Mary Read. Mm-hmm. And they found each other on their pirating journey. But I wanted to know, how did she become a female pirate? It's not like something that you set out to do, especially in like 1697 or whatever it was when she was born. So obviously I went to this pirate museum. I knew a little bit about Bonny anyway, but they fired me up when I got there because there's a big installation about the female pirates. But when I really drilled down her life, I'm like, okay, what a woman. What a woman. I mean, she was kick-ass, courageous, fearless. She was an equal to the male pirates who were brutal as fuck. So brutal. When she was there with them. I'm like, how does she get to that point? Did she choose that life? So I think she got to this point, a mixture of circumstance and just falling into it, really. So she was born, we think, around 1697, although the date has actually been questioned. But in a lot of the academic literature that I've been reading, that date comes up more than any other. So I'm going to stick with it because it fits in with my dialogue. Yeah. All right, so if it's wrong, don't really care because this is my segment.
Because Google says so.
Yeah, Google said it was. So she was born in Cork, and her mum was a maid called Mary Brennan, and her dad was a married attorney called William Cormac. So dad, some jiggy, produced a baby. And but William, being married, obviously didn't want to reveal the fact that they'd created this child and blow the secret out the water. But as the child was getting bigger, it became really hard to hide the fact that he'd had this child out of wedlock. So he said to Mary, need to dress her as a boy, cut all her hair off, make her wear a cap, and I'll pass her off as like a trainee office clerk from like young. Yeah. So they did that for a little while, and they called her Andy. So, I mean, obviously back then times are much harder, and things that would not be acceptable now were normal then. And actually, when I was reading into this was quite common. Yeah. Especially when you're children out of wedlock and that. But for a kid, that would have been quite difficult, I think, not being allowed to be the little girl that she might have wanted to have been. She was forced to be a boy and act like a boy, play like a boy, play with other boys. And so she already had that mindset from very, very young that was the way that she needed to behave. And she fought like a boy as well. If she's playing around with boys, they're going to fight. Yeah. Well, she was their equal. She'd punch them out like. Anyway, eventually, though, the secret was out the bag, and William took his mistress and little Anne over to Charleston in South Carolina. And he managed to work his way up, earn enough money to buy a plantation. They thrived. They did really well. And she could live as a girl there, but she was already as entrenched in how to live as a boy, dressing like a boy. Yeah. I think Mary did try and play her as a girl, and she's like, nah, I want to go and play in the woods with the boys.
It's more fun, isn't it?
Pardon?
It's more fun.
I think I was a tomboy.
That was me as a kid.
Playing in the mud and making tree houses. Yeah. Oh, I'd made tree houses when I was 12 with my mates. Best summer of my life. You've got a summer in your life that was the best summer ever.
In my shitty childhood now.
Okay, bad question.
Trauma.
How about you, Dylan?
Not particularly. My birthday's in the summer, so I always every summer's a nice summer. I love the
my
summer.
birthday's in the summer. What month are you?
July.
I'm June. It's nice having a birthday in the middle of the year.
Yeah.
Anyway, so they did really, really well over there, but her mum died in 1711. So what? I was she 14ish. Yeah. And it fucked her up a little bit. She went off the rails a little bit. Not in like a mental way, but it was like, right, well, my mum's not here. My dad's busy. I'm off.
Do what you want.
And she just went off the rails completely. And this is where she really developed this fierce temper and courage that she was known for. Very fierce, fiery temper. And she was just getting frustrated. I think that, she didn't really know who she was, and people would say things to her and she'd just snap back, and sometimes
it's a hormonal
violence,
time for a teenage
very
girl.
hormonal. And it was said that she stabbed one of the servants with a fork in an argument, and it's not known if that servant died or lived. And she was also known, fact, for severely beating a man who tried to rape her, but he was beaten with her hands to within an inch of his life.
Goes on her.
Yeah. And she'd spend a lot of nights in the taverns, sleeping with the sailors and all that kind of thing, having a nice time. And then in 1712, so she would have been around 15, 16, she met a sailor called James Bonny. And eventually she married him, so she became Anne Bonny. But her dad was fuming. He had bigger ideas for her, even though he'd been making a live as a boy for the best part of her childhood. He all of a sudden wanted to be a lady and, had these nice
Not
men.
a sailor's wife.
Yeah. So when she decided to marry this guy, he disowned her, which, wouldn't have been very nice. But to be fair, by this point, I think she was completely off the rails anyway. Yeah. So not to be deterred, the newlywed couple went off to the Bahamas, to Nassau. And if you don't know already, it's known as the Republic of Pirates. I've been all around that area. Everywhere you go, there's just pirate shit everywhere. It's amazing. But once she got to Nassau and she saw all the other pirates there and this wildlife that was, ahead of her, she got bored of her husband, James. And also she found out he was a snitch. He'd hunt pirates down and claim the bounty. And she's like, you don't do that to pirates, so fuck you. So she binned him off. And then it wasn't long before she met Captain John Rackham, and he was known as Captain Jack Calico at the time. And he was a bit wild and a very well-known pirate. Bit of a womanizer as well, but violent. And so their expeditions were always full of bloodshed, and there's just something about him. It was the hybristophilia that you were talking about in one of the other episodes.
I feel it.
She was attracted to bad boys, and this guy just spoke to her. And she was mesmerised by him, and she agreed to join him on his ship, but dressed in men's clothes, which was fine because she'd been doing it most of her life anyway. And by this point, she's still very young. Yeah. She's still in like maybe 15, 16. But back then, that was a mature woman. Yeah. You were a woman, and you had to just live your life. You weren't a child anymore. Get on with it. So she joined him on his ship anyway. Quick slurp, and dressed as a man. But obviously, she couldn't hide it for long. One, she was fucking shagging him anyway. So they were like, there's something funny going on here. And so once he realised that there was a woman on the ship, they went nuts because it was bad luck to have a woman on the ship. And there's this one particular male crew member who complained quite vocally about the fact that this woman was on the ship and we're all doomed and all that. And Anne was saying, I might be a woman genetically, but I'm your equal. I'm going to prove it by having an arm wrestle with you, basically. As you did back then, Imagine me having an arm wrestle with all of my subs. They were like, that's fine, it's fine. Anyway, she won. And after she won and she went down, she stabbed him in the heart and threw him overboard. And from that day on, none of the other pirates questioned her and accepted her as one of the crew. Well, you would, wouldn't you? But apparently she was vicious.
She sounds like my kind of woman.
Yeah. I mean, she's a woman in a man's world, finding her way. And the only way she could find to do that is to fight and be as fierce as the men around her. And, would she have been like that if she hadn't have had that exposure? I think she probably would have channeled it in a different way. I think she would have been a fierce, leading female of some sort. I think it was just in her, to be honest with you. Anyway, so So she'd walk around, once she was found out, she'd walk around in female clothes, but when they were under attack, she'd jump into the tunic, the pants, the sword, the pistol. I can imagine her to just look amazing, to be honest with you. I don't even mean in like an attractive way, but like in a fucking kick-ass way. Like, good on you, love.
Yeah.
All these men with all the fucking testosterone, and then you swinging on a rope with a knife between your teeth.
You've been watching too many films.
Oh, what was the one with Gina Davis years ago? And she was a female pirate, and that she was bloody kick-ass. It'll come to me in a minute. Jimmy loves that film. Anyway, Jack Calico, even though he was a crazy lunatic pirate, he followed the pirate code. I don't know if you know this, but if a pirate ship conquered another ship, whoever was left after the onslaught, they would take the crew as their own. And they wouldn't argue about it. They'd just be like, yeah, all right, fair cop. I think it was a case of, well, you're going to take me under your wing. You're not going to kill me off.
Yeah.
And I'll work for you, and we'll go and find our treasure together, kind of thing. And on one of these attacks, this is where she met Mary Read. Mary Read was on another ship that was conquered by Captain Jack Calico. And she was one of the remaining crew, and they thought that she was a man. Again, like me. And she was disguised as a man. Anyway, Anne was like, he's a bit fit, you know, when she came on the ship, not knowing that Mary was a man. Like, caught her eye. Anyway, she soon discovered that she was a female. Didn't deter her at all. And they started getting it on. But Captain Jack didn't know. She didn't reveal the secret. She thought she was having jiggy-jiggy with another man. Captain Jack went nuts and threatened to slit Mary's throat. And Anne's like, no, revealed the secret. And Captain Jack all of a sudden was okay with the arrangement. And sometimes joined in occasionally himself too. So it was a nice little arrangement that they had. So Anne, Mary and Captain Jack occasionally had a little menage a trois. But Mary and Anne were close as friends and as lovers. And they had this mutual respect. And I was thinking, if another woman came onto a ship where I'd been working hard to try and find me way and make me mark, this other woman comes in, she could be a threat. Yeah. But she wasn't. Anne saw her as her equal. And enjoyed her having her on the ship. Anyway, so they were very successful as a crew in 1720, and they conquered all sorts of ships all over the place, and basically were one of the most successful crews out there. The other thing that I remember reading, Mary had a very similar upbringing to Anne. Mary was brought up as a boy called Mark, so very, very similar. Anyway, in the autumn of 1720, they'd all been celebrating all these ships that they'd sunk, and the crew were pissed, having a lovely time. Anne's on the front of the ship and saw this other ship coming towards them at speed. Tried to forewarn all the other crew, including the captain, and they're either pissed or disappeared down below deck because they realised that there wasn't enough people sober enough. So Anne's like, well, I'm not going down here without a fight. Mary, girl, come on. And then there's a few of them that were sober. And the ship approached and she just jumped in and went for it. Anyway, they were overthrown very quickly. They were outnumbered hugely. But there's this great quote. Let me just see if I can find it here. So, as they were getting... As they were getting attacked... She said that she was shouting to the rest of the crew something along the lines of, if there's a man among you, you'll come up and fight like the man you are to be. And none of them did. But you can imagine her wielding this sword like, come on, you bunch of cunts, come and fight with me. And they didn't. So they were all captured, including Captain Jack, who didn't fight. And they were sentenced in Jamaica, and they were all sentenced to death for piracy. And Captain Jack, just before he went to the gallows, made one final request and wants to see Anne, his lover. And Anne did go and see him, but he didn't expect what she said to him. There wasn't any words of comfort, let's put it that way. I was going to do this in a pirate accent, and I'm just not going to because it'd be shit. And she says, I'm sorry to see you here, but if you fought like a man, you'd need not be hanged like a dog. And left him to it.
Shouldn't have been pissed.
Yeah, true words. So he was hung. But Anne and Mary escaped the gallows because they were both pregnant. And they said that they'd keep them in prison until the birth of the children, then decide what to do, basically. But Mary died in jail only 6 months later after they were captured. And they were put in cells next to each other. Jack was well hung, he was swung well before that. But Anne and Mary were next to each other. So Anne saw Mary die in prison along with her baby. It's not documented how she died. Now, from that point on, the history of Anne stops. But what we know is that she absolutely was not executed. And there's two sort of theories. And a lot of this information, it comes from fact that was documented at the time.
Yeah.
Actual fact in diaries and ship logs, and from anecdotal stories that were passed down from the crew. So what I'm telling you now is what we actually know as a fact. Okay. So we know she wasn't executed, but this little bit here, we're not so sure. And it is actually written down. One, that she died in prison not long after Mary.
Yeah.
The other is that because her father was a well-respected landowner, they released her. And he funded basically a return to South Carolina, and she got married and had children. I think that's a load of shit. I don't think her dad would have done that at all.
No.
He disowned her. He didn't want to know her. There's no way. Once she was found guilty of piracy, no way.
Yeah.
So the romantic in me wants to think that Mary and Anne were sort of together. So at the end, and Anne just either died of a broken heart or, just died in prison of whatever. I don't want to think that, she was,
Could be like childbirth or anything.
Whatever. Could have been anything at all. But we don't know. But she went down in history as one of the most famous, brave, courageous, fierce pirates, not even female pirates. The fact that she was a woman almost was disregarded in the history books. And talking about history books, the historians now reckon that at the time there was a lot more detail about Mary and Anne, but they buried it because they didn't want other women to get ideas above their station. They didn't want other women to think that there was a place like this for them in the world. Your women should be seen, not heard. And so they've buried a lot of the information, and over time it's been destroyed. But thankfully, some of this information still remains. And even though piracy, it's brutal, I've romanticised it a little bit there. I'm still trying to think that film with Gina Davis.
No idea.
Come to me in a minute. It's very romanticised, but actually, pirates are still very brutal and would not think twice about killing somebody. Is Dylan looking it up now?
Yes.
Cutthroat Island.
Thank you, Cutthroat Island. Don't think twice about murdering and plundering and all that. But there's just something about this story which sort of speaks to me as a strong woman who's found her way in life somehow. I mean, if she did die at the same time as Mary, she would have only been about 24. So it's a very short life, and a life filled with danger and uncertainty. But somehow she found her way. She was raped in her past and, treated quite badly. But she's found her way somehow. And this character, this strong character, has helped her find her way in this male-dominated world. Yeah. And I can't not admire that. No matter how brutal she is and all that, I can't not admire that. So she did. She spoke to me, and she had what my old nan would call gumption. Yeah. I love that fucking word. If you don't know what gumption means, I'm not going to tell you. Go and have a little look. But she had gumption in leaps and bounds.
Dylan's Googling gumption.
Dylan doesn't know what gumption is either. So my little middle bit, it's going to be a very quick one because I haven't got loads of time. It's a little bit more about Anne and Mary, and it's about a statue. But before I go on, Dylan, I have got a couple of pictures.
Yes.
So if you look at first, I've spelled it wrong. It should say Anne Bonny Black Sails. There was a programme called Black Sails out up to about 10 years ago. And it was fucking brilliant. It was all about the pirates at the time. And this is the lady that played Anne Bonny. And this is how, she's fucking fit. This is how I imagine her to be. And she always had like dreads and beads and stuff. And she always looked like she needed a good wash, to be honest with you. But I suppose they would back then. Yeah. Washing and stuff wasn't, forefront of the mind. But she was full of intrigue. She was always like peeping around corners like this, listening in the background, taking everything in and saying very little. And this is exactly the impression I got when I was reading about her. We've got Anne Bonny, it's Black Sails 2 as well.
Ooh.
Look at her there. Fucking brilliant. She just captures her brilliance, and she did have red
jawline on her.
I know. She had red wavy hair. Now, we never saw her with short hair. We saw her with long hair, but she just fit in with the rest of them because the guy had long hair as well. She was amazing. Now, there's one here, Dylan, and it's Anne Bonny Mary Reid's statue, and I believe this is in the Bahamas somewhere. There we go. I don't know where in the Bahamas exactly, but that's out there. And it's just sort of commemorating these two amazing, fierce women who fought side by side for all of their very short lives that they had. But there's another statue that is my middle bit, and it's a statue that's been commissioned in the UK. And the statue is supposed to be erected in Berg Island, which is down in Devon Way. And the local people of Berg Island did not want this statue. And the statue, Dylan, it says Anne and Mary statue 2. So this is an artist's impression of how the statue would look looking out to sea. And you can see that are joined at the hip and the shoulder. And there's just something about it. It's just these two women standing side by side, isn't it? Looking out to sea. I think it's an amazing statue. So when I was reading into it, the council, it's like a little parish council, I think, they were saying that it didn't fit in with the landscape. Why do you want it here? And the creators are saying, well, if you look around Devon, everything is pirates. It's like Pirate Central. And they say it'll degrade in the weather. Well, that'll make it look better. Yeah. If it falls, who's going to fix it? Stick in a contract, the creators have got to go and fix it. And they said in the current climate, with pirates and that, we didn't think it was tasteful because of the historical badness of pirates. And I'm like, well, close every fucking souvenir shop in Devon then. Yeah. Because they've all got pirates in. What they're not saying is they're lesbians. Yeah. That's why they don't want the statue. It's a little place. It's a little fucking island.
It doesn't
in
even
Devon.
scream pirate, does it? Unless you know.
I just think it's beautiful. And it's just a nice little nod to just two women who had a very short life and who made a mark. And I think this needs to be seen. But they're looking for somewhere else. Berg Island can go and fuck off. They don't want it. Somebody else will have it.
With your butt plug.
Yeah, exactly. I'm moving soon though. So I'll have to take it with me, won't I?
Well, it'd even be better with your new view.
It would do. It would. Right. What have you got for us, kid?
So mine kind of follows on from last week's episode a little bit.
Yeah.
So if you've seen last week's episode, I obviously talked about surgery and my transformation.
Yes. Amazing transformation, lady.
But I wanted to look at this is in no way shaming these people, but they're just transformations that are out there.
Okay. Are these transformations that haven't gone right or transformations they've chosen?
No, they've chosen.
Okay. God, there's some mad ones. I've watched some of these programmes of people getting mad surgery.
So this one came from Sid the other night. He was a little bit high. He was lying on the couch and he was like,
surely not.
Look at this. And it was a man called Toko. Toko's a Japanese man and he spent 15 grand to...
Go on.
Do you know who he is?
Is this the male Ken? No. Okay, go on.
No. He spent $15,000 to fulfill his lifelong dream of becoming a border collie.
Oh my God.
Now, look at that.
That is not him.
That's him.
Is it a dog suit?
Yeah. Now, we've seen some pups, but that's boss.
Okay, it doesn't happen very often. I'm a bit speechless.
So, Toko goes out in Japan once a month as his dog self. And he doesn't tell his friends or his family or anything that this is what he does because he's scared that they'll like...
Right. Okay. So this is a suit that he gets into. He hasn't had surgery.
No. So at first I thought, when Sid showed it to me, I was like, fuck off, you can't get surgery to look like that. I was
going to say, Sid was very, very high thinking that this was surgery. Thanks, Dylan. Jesus Christ.
That's a big one.
Can't you tell I've replaced the batteries in that? In the buzzer, not Dylan. I just wound Dylan off before we started.
Isn't that boss though?
Well, like I say, I am actually speechless. I mean, it's a very round dog.
It is. He's a little rotund.
So he gets in and he walks around wherever he is in Japan.
Yeah.
As a border collie. Does he woof?
I assume so, yeah. He plays as a dog. He plays with other dogs.
Fuck,
he goes to
real
the
dogs?
dog park, yeah.
What do the dogs think of him now?
Well, apparently they all think it's a little bit weird, but they play with him.
Does he like them sniffing his ass?
Yeah.
Because you say hello, don't they? Sniff your arse. I wonder if he sniffs you the
And I
dog's
think he does it
arses.
in return.
Fuck off!
He just
He
lives.
sniffs you the dog's arses.
He's living his best life as a dog.
I need to look up now if there's a no, I don't. I don't need to look that up. No, I don't need to look that up at all.
So he's got 52,000 subscribers on his YouTube channel.
52,000.
Yeah. And he posts all his videos on YouTube of his dog days out.
I've seen some dog outfits in my time.
That's boss,
That
though, isn't it?
blows them all out the water. 15 grand is, well, I mean, if you're into that, that's 15 grand well spent. It looked very authentic.
It's like Lassie, isn't it? My granddad had a Lassie dog.
Yeah. Wow. Okay.
So, moving on. I just love it. Next is Maria. So, Maria Jose Cristina, and she's known as the Vampire Mother. So, even though she's known as the Vampire Mother, it wasn't like an obsession with vampires that inspired her look.
Okay.
She went for this like extreme makeover because she just wanted to be like self-empowering and thought like, fuck what everyone thinks. This is what I like. That's what I'm going to do.
Go on then.
That is Maria.
So she's called the Vampire Mother.
Yeah. Look at her lips and stuff.
Okay.
Your TV's going to close.
Yeah, this TV is going to go off. It says you haven't performed an operation for a while. Okay,
So yeah, she had all these procedures and stuff. She's
that's
had
costed a lot of money.
hundreds of tattoos. It's those horns in the head though.
So
That just gives me a headache.
the implant. Well, you have headaches anyway.
I've
Don't
got
you
a
imagine
fucking
you having
headache
horns in
anyway
your
now.
head?
But imagine rolling over.
Yeah. So the practicalities of life. You know, you wouldn't be able to wear a hat or a cap.
Maybe you could wear 4 little hats.
You could dangle Christmas decorations off
Yeah.
them. You could be your own
That's
tree.
a win for me.
I mean, do you know what? She's loving how she looks, you can tell.
Yeah.
You know, she wouldn't allow photos to be taken of her. And she's gone as extreme as she can.
Yeah, and
there,
this
I
is
think.
all for her because it's exactly
yeah.
what she wants.
Yeah.
So more power to you.
Yeah.
So next is Eric. Eric is an internet sensation, and you
Is
must
this
have
the
seen
Ken
him.
doll one?
No,
Oh.
I didn't put Ken in because everyone's seen
Has he
Ken.
died?
No,
I thought he
apparently
died.
not. Now he's like reverted back, and
Oh,
he's
right,
now
I
more
thought he
like Barbie
died.
than Ken.
Oh, for fuck's sake.
Yeah.
Wow.
Eric's the lizard man.
Yeah, I've seen the lizard man before.
So
Okay.
he's
so
quite cool, isn't he?
I'm really sorry, right? I'm not, and this is not offensive, but you know where my mind goes?
The tongue.
The tongue. So,
And
I
it
would,
moves individually.
I
You
know,
can like.
and this is
roll it.
why I'm wondering, has he got a female partner? And how is cunnilingus? Because to have a tongue,
I think he has got a wife. There's a picture of him with his wife. I
I'm
think.
sure she's a very happy wife.
She probably is.
Because one tongue's on the clit, one tongue's up her fanny. Or one on the fanny,
On the
one up her
bubble.
arse.
One ribbon.
Independently moving. I'd be like, fucking hell, I wouldn't go out.
Yeah. So to make this look, Eric has spent 700 hours being tattooed, including his green lips.
You'd have to get
So he's got scales all over his body.
wow, okay.
And I thought it was him who had his eyeballs tattooed, but he hasn't.
He hasn't, no. Have you seen the guy who's got the split tongue and like a hole in his cheek and he sticks his tongue through
Yeah.
his cheek?
What?
Yeah.
Yeah. Gives me the...
It's a clever little party trick, like, isn't it?
Yeah. So he's sharpened all his teeth, split his tongue, and he's actually a performer in a freak show.
Yeah.
So he makes his living that way.
Yeah.
Um,
I don't go along with the thing that you must have mental health problems if you do these things to yourself. I mean, there might be some deep-seated stuff, but at the end of the day, they're an adult making informed decisions. And whether it's down to mental health or not, if it makes them happy and gets them through a day, leave your fucking opinions to yourself.
I mean, you might shit yourself walking down a dark alley and...
Oh, do you know, I probably
There's
would
the
look
horns,
twice, but it wouldn't be with like, ooh, it'd be with intrigue, actually. You know, and I know I couldn't go up to somebody and say, just stand still while I examine you, because I'd love to have a really, really good look, you know.
Well, we've had someone in the club who's had the implants.
Yes.
And I was just like, oh,
I want to touch them.
yeah, kind of like, I want to touch them, but I don't want to touch them.
I want to touch them.
Yeah. And I think they were very new when they were last in the club, and they were quite painful, I think, what I remember.
Yeah.
The next one is Mark Dolan.
Okay.
Mark's the man who turned himself into a cat.
I've seen Mark before.
So he's had loads of surgery, piercings, reconstructive
He's had cheek implants and everything there, hasn't
yeah,
he?
loads of like silicone and stuff.
The only thing that I can't get on board with there is the sharpened teeth.
Yeah.
Just because
Back to
I can
turkey, aren't
imagine
I?
to be a bit painful, really, and impractical.
Just the nerves and stuff.
Yeah.
Oh.
That's the only thing I couldn't get on board with there is just,
So
the
he
sharpness.
gave himself the cleft lip
Yeah.
and all of these little piercings on his whiskers.
Mad.
That's where his whiskers should be.
Mad. To change yourself so fundamentally. It's mad, isn't it? Mad.
I mean, as long as you're happy, but...
Yeah. Fucking hell. It's a lot of money to spend to be happy.
Yeah.
A lot of changes to make.
So
isn't it?
our last one is a lady called Elaine.
Okay.
Elaine holds the world record for the most piercings on a body.
Yeah.
And this is my favourite picture, I think. Look at that.
So that's all piercings.
That is all piercings. So she's
Can you make
got
that a bit bigger,
piercings.
Dylan? Sorry
So
to be
it's
demanding.
4,225 piercings she has on her body.
I mean, you can't even see her ethnic origin on there. You can't see her face structure, nothing at all. All you can see is piercings.
Yeah. And she changes all these all the time to keep her looks different and changes all the colour schemes and stuff.
I mean, the health professional in me is like, there's a lot of cleaning involved with those piercings.
Oh, she must be doing something right because she looks all right.
Yeah. It must be heavy as well, mustn't it? How does she sleep at night? She take them all out every night.
Imagine the shake.
Jesus, you'd need like 2 hours to get ready, wouldn't you? I couldn't sleep next to her, jingle jangling next to me.
So she got her first piercing in 1997
And
and
hasn't
then
stopped.
went on to get like the most recorded in history.
Wow.
So the last official count of this record was 2006, but nobody's said that they've beaten Elaine's record. I'm sure she's probably had much more since then as well. You can see her actual body. She does have piercings all over her body, like genitals, inside, outside, everywhere.
Wow. Okay. That's
still-
a lot of
space.
piercings. Fucking hell. I don't really like... I'm literally about to finish. So if you don't know already, we get the fart buzzer to give us like a 5-minute warning, and then the ghost when
The
it's like,
ghost is
stop
now panic stations.
Panic stations. So just my very, very quick fetish factoid for the end of this one. It's a new little segment. It was a longer one. I'm going to do a short one. What's the opposite of jealousy?
What is the opposite of jealousy?
It's called comparison.
Never.
And it's when somebody gets sexual gratification after seeing their partner enjoy sex with somebody else. So basically most swingers.
That's me.
Comparison. So that's the opposite of jealousy. That's a little fetish factoid.
That's called comparison.
Comparison. So every week I'm going to do a little fetish factoid. That's this one. Comparison. Opposite of jealousy. You're welcome.
Next time, put it in a sentence
Why?
so I can understand it better.
Okay. I'll do that in a minute. Fucking hell, I've got time. Right, we're going to go. Thanks for watching, everybody. Really appreciate your time. Dylan's like about to push me out the door. And like I said last week, I think it's going to become a little bit of a tagline. Yeah. If you're binge watching, put the kettle on. We'll see you in 5. If not, we'll see you next week. See ya. And there we have it. Another day made better by listening to the curators of chaos. Thanks for dropping by. And if you enjoyed the show, we'd really appreciate you sharing your love for the Pad to Sell podcast with your friends. Don't forget, give us a follow on our socials, maybe leave us some 5-star reviews, and feel free to send us an email to medic@the Podcast, or even interact with us on Facebook, Insta, and our other socials, because we love chatting to you. Be sure to stop by next week because, as Bowie says, I don't know where I'm going next, but I promise it won't be boring. Catch you soon.